Lobsta Productions.
We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Nephilim shit.
It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's saying shit what happened to the home of the brave. These motherfuckers, they controlling us now, and no one's talking about how they made us modern day slaves. And everybody's just walking around, head in the clouds, and won't awaken to a dead in the grave. By then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up. Welcome to the end of days.
Everybody is slaves, only some are aware that the government releasing poison in the air.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is Top Lobsta, the father of disinformation. Before we get into today's episode, I would just like to remind all of the live viewers that this is a 30-minute preview only. Sometime around the 30-minute mark, we'll be going live exclusively to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. But fear not, you can continue watching along, enjoying an ad-free viewing experience, and watching the episode before the general public does, and you could do it all for free. We are now offering 7-day free trials. What's the expression? A free trial, yeah. 7-day free trial.
It's a free trial.
And after that, you can start getting billed. You can try to absorb as much content as you possibly can in 7 days, but... joke's on you. We produce too much content for you to be able to absorb in 7 days. So you'll end up paying us anyway. You'll fall in love with us, and you will become a Patreon member. Also, guys, don't forget to go on over to toplobsta.com. A great way to support Nephilim Death Squad is by picking up some of our merchandise. We got all kinds of dope designs over at toplobsta.com. The MKUltra Dolphins design is a banger, as well as Dangerous Retards merchandise, OG logos. We even have NDS professional wear. All that and much more awaits you over on toplobsta.com. All right, let's get into this episode. This is going to be an interesting one. We're doing another NDS deep dive. Which one is this, Top? Is this like the fourth one that we've done?
Yeah, I think this is like number 4. Honestly, I'm a little bit, what's the word? Like, I'm overstimulated right now.
Yeah, dude.
Is how I feel.
We were doing...
You see me?
One of the reasons we were late is because Top likes to be thorough, and so we're going through all of our notes on this guy, and Top just keeps adding more and more and more notes. And the reason is because Andrija... How would you even pronounce that? Can you give it a shot so I can
His
listen
name
and
is,
repeat it?
So the guy that we're going to be talking about today is called Andrija Puharich. Okay, this is what he looks like.
Very average-looking
like,
guy. Very regular, non-assuming.
Yeah. Non-assuming. All right, this isn't loading. Whatever. He looks like this, just kind of like a regular Eastern European dude. And this dude like kind of seemingly comes out of nowhere. Like most of these kind of ghosts, they're just a dude that just pops up and starts doing things on the world stage. So let's just get into it. He's an American physician, an inventor, and a parapsychologist is what his title is. He bridged the conventional science, technology, innovation, and the paranormal, which is right up our alley. If he was still alive, we talked to him. He was born in 1918, died in 95. His death, let's just fucking skip to his death.
He died. He
Very
was born
strange.
right at the turn of the century and the beginning of the Spanish flu, actually, right? I believe that was the 1918 Spanish flu virus that was what everybody was worried about when we were going into COVID times. So, yeah, this guy
That is right.
showed up on the world stage just in time to kick shit off in a big way.
Yeah, so in January 3rd, like we're just like you know how he started and now how he dies. In 1995 in Virginia, he falls down some stairs and just dies.
Damn, dude,
He
that's
left
what took him out. All of this looking into the parapsychological, and he takes a spill down a set of steps and dies. Damn, dude, you never know when it's coming.
I think so. This is in 1995 when this happened. Like the narratives of like being offed and all this stuff weren't as prolific. I guess they were.
Are you
JFK,
saying the Clintons
Martin Luther
didn't
King.
exist, so we couldn't add him to the Clinton body count?
I'm saying like the internet didn't exist. So like most people don't know who this fucking guy is, but he just like he's responsible for so many of the things that we talk about on this show.
There you go. Shout out to Paranoid
does he? There
American.
you go.
It says Puharich also ties into a research. Dude, it is wild. Shout out to Thomas.
What doesn't he tie into?
It's
is the
insane.
question.
It's insane. Well, all right. So where do you want to start with this guy? Because there's so many juicy places to. This is we said it before the show started. What we're presenting you is the most fascinating man that you never knew even existed, and he is right on the on the cornerstone of so much of the connective conspiracy material. This guy is like behind the scenes and everything. So, where do you want to start, Top?
All right, so like again, here we go. He's not Jewish. He's Croatian, is what I found out. So
I actually
this is
don't like. So go on.
I like Mirko Krokop.
Oh, I like Krokop, yeah, but I was fired by a Croatian guy, and he was the only experience I ever had with Croatians. And so what you do is when you have one bad experience with an individual, you actually dismiss an entire of people. And so, yeah, I'm not a big fan.
For me, Max, but yes, I agree. I understand where you're coming from with this. All right, so he comes from Croatia. His parents are. This actually isn't his name, Andrija Puharich. His name is Karel Puharich. I don't know why he changed his name. Perhaps some like Karel, Karel. Yeah, it's like some immigrant shit when they come across to Ellis Island. They like the people there were just like, that's not your name anymore.
Like, hey, buddy, nobody can fucking pronounce that, so we're gonna go ahead and change it.
Andrija, like that's a better name.
Not good.
He was educated in Maryland in Northwestern University in 1947, specializing in neurophysiology. He studied electrical impulses in the brain and body, and this is kind of where his story starts. So he's from 1918 until about 1947, he's just a kind of a dude doing things. But once he goes to Northwestern University, this is when he starts popping up on the world stage and really making a splash. He was in the 1950s. He joined the military.
Okay.
He was in the medical corps of the military. Later on at this facility that he was at, it's called the Edgewood Arsenal facility. They started to link MKUltra experiments to this place.
There we go.
So, yeah, so it's somewhere between Northwestern University, which that's Maryland, and in the 1950s, joining the Army. Honestly, it's probably the Army. That's where they got Paranoid American, where they MKUltra'd him.
Hey, it's also worth mentioning that this guy has come up before on the show several times. Some of you might remember when we spoke to, I believe it was a Codex of Curiosities, and he presented to us the concept of the spirit com, which was fascinating.
No, it was Control Alt History.
Yes, Control Alt History. He did a fantastic job of showing us this spirit com situation. Basically, in the 80s, there were a group of scientists and inventors and such that created a device, a technological device that you could have two-way communications with somebody seemingly in the spiritual realm. And the nature of those people that they were communicating with is still out to the jury, or the jury's out on it rather. But this was a technology that didn't even exist that long ago, and they were reliably communicating with spiritual entities, or at least perceived spiritual entities, and they were having people come from far and wide to try to disprove and debunk this spirit com, and they weren't able to do so. And so Puharich actually worked intimately, I believe, with the spirit com. And was it Puharich, Top, that ended up becoming schizophrenic?
No, this wasn't. So Puharich kind of the Spiricom actually, as I did some more research on it, the Spiricom came after Puharich, but like it came in like maybe a couple years after, but it was influenced by his work because he was doing a couple things which we're going to get into, like his channeling of the nine, which is it's kind of what put me onto this guy. There was an episode of Merkel where he interviewed a guy, Ryan, I forget his name, but it's in the title, it's like Skinwalker and something else. He did a documentary, and at the very end of the documentary, he started talking about like his next documentary, what he'd like to do, and he started talking about the nine and this Council of Nine. And there's like mythologies talking about Satan has his Council of Nine, and they sit at this table, they make decisions, but it's mirrored all throughout, all across mythologies and the pantheons.
Right. So you have it in Greek mythology where it's like the nine muses. So the muses in Greek mythology were responsible for inspiring artists in particular. These are spiritual entities that were allegedly inspiring you to create some great work of art, whether that's a painting or a song or a play or whatever the case may be. Oftentimes these are attributed to the muses. This is still a phenomenon that happens today. We just don't verbally say it was the muses, right? So lots of great artists will have had the concept for their song, for their movie. It came to them in a fugue state. It came to them in an inebriated state. It came to them in a dream even. And I think very often times these artists will make the mistakes of thinking that somehow this is their brain baby. It's not. It was actually given to them. And just to dismount, the Ennead is a group of...
Wait, hold off on this, because we're going to be getting into this entire thing.
Okay.
But we have to go in order to really understand this guy.
That means we can't answer Redbeard. Shout out Redbeard. Good question, Redbeard.
I don't know. There's so much information that I have on this guy. I don't know if Crowley did communicate with the Nine, but I mean, we're going to look into this. So here is his initial experiments after he gets out of the army, which was an MKUltra facility. So God only knows what happened there. But the guy gets out and he starts doing this parapsychology investigation. So it's like science, psychology, shit, right out of the army. And I don't know. I'd like to assume that the army put a little wind on his back and let him go.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. So he starts working with mediums in the 1950s. So psychics, Aileen Garrett, Harry Stone, and they're doing seances and then experimenting with psychedelics.
Woo!
He's influenced, or he's wrote this book, The Sacred Mushroom, where he's documenting his experiences with Amanita muscaria.
Yep.
And suggesting that mushrooms are a tool for spiritual communication. Joe Rogan.
Yeah, shout out Joe Rogan.
And in 1962, he's talking about telepathy, proposed telepathy as an electromagnetic phenomenon, blending scientific rigor with mystical inquiry. So this guy is a modern day alchemist, mixing science and magic, which I'm not so sure that they're really different.
No. I forget who is quoted as saying that advanced enough technology would be perceived as magic by early civilizations, or that magic is just magic until technology achieves whatever it is that this magic can achieve. It's interesting too, because it looks like back in the day, 60s, 70s, whatever, I've heard this romanticization of the scientific community in the West, really specifically talking about those decades and how it was like the wild, wild west. Like scientists were like rock stars back in the day. Now they're all, and they want you to take the and eat a donut. But back in the day, these are people that were, we look at parapsychology or the paranormal in general, the supernatural, and we dismiss it. You're ostracized by the larger scientific community. That doesn't seem to be the case back in the day. They were much more comfortable with looking at magical principalities and such through the scientific scrutinizing lens and experimenting and engaging with these ideas. Not the case anymore, or at least if it is the case, it's not what we're seeing on the surface level. This is happening in some sort of MKUltra facility, by some sort of intelligence agency. So it's a shame, because that seemed a lot more fun. And who knows, maybe if you lived back in the day, you wouldn't have even heard of these things. We're only hearing about them now in hindsight. It probably wasn't something that the average public was keyed into.
Yeah, I think, man, it's like, I think we're so far beyond, where like the whatever plan they have instituted is full blown. We're moving towards it. So I think that they're okay with the public knowing, the general public being aware of a lot of these, these terms that fly around, that orbit these important ideas. All right, so 1952, this is where things kind of really start to move with Andrija Puharich. He meets an Indian mystic.
Nice.
This guy, Dr. D.G. Vinod. They eat street food. They have diarrhea. And
I'm looking in our notes. I'm like, they ate street food. Okay, go on. They ate with their bare hands and occasionally with their feet. Yeah.
It was disgusting. But after that, Vinod does he goes into a trance state and he starts to channel, and he channels something, this entity that there's a name to this entity, but it's basically the beginning of the channeling of the nine.
Okay.
And let me see, this guy has a name, this entity that they're talking to.
Wait,
but
can we highlight this real quick? Because the nine, as he identifies them, are timeless entities, so entities outside of time, speaking as one voice, so we are
right.
legion.
This is what I mean. Yeah, so I guess it doesn't have a name, but like this is why this concept is confusing to me. There's 9 of these entities, but it's presenting themselves to him as one.
Right.
This,
But that's
legion.
like we are legion, right? I mean,
yes.
So we know that there was a multitude of demons in this guy, and they identified themselves in one voice as legion. Also, it goes on to say, so timeless entities that are outside of time, that are speaking with one voice, with a mission of cosmic stewardship over humanity's trajectory. And what I find fascinating about that top is that all the time on Nephilim Death Squad, we are speculating as to whether or not the reason you can attribute agriculture, metallurgy, alchemy, all these different sciences and practices to lowercase g gods is because they are, what was the terminology that they used in there? They are on a mission of stewardship over humanity's trajectory. They are giving us technologies to advance us to a level that will enable a couple of things to happen. 1, we can communicate with them more effectively, and 2, we can bring them back into this physical realm so they can finish the works that they were doing at the Tower of Babylon, or at least that's what I suspect. So, I mean, I think that is right. It's the way in which they don't lie. They tell you the truth. It's just like a vague truth that doesn't have a lot of details, so that you can imprint your own ideas on it. And you go, oh, okay, that sounds nice. This is good. There you go, Grey Pilled Podcast. Also, shout out Grey Pilled Podcast. He's going to be on Tinfoil Hat very soon. Congratulations, brother. He says, that's why the name Satan is so powerful, because it's multiple deities under one name. I would agree with that.
Yep. Yeah, it seems like so number one, they don't want to really ever tell you their name.
Yes.
But number 2, like they're saying, it's more powerful to be consolidated into this one thing. Or a previous guest, John Lee Shalbeck, was saying that he thinks that they do these like we were talking about the number 77 and the rituals, and he thinks they do these rituals to compound, or they think that compounding rituals gives it more power.
Yeah.
If you do these things over time, the same thing. So there's some weird veracity to that. But Grey Pill, you're asking this question. Give me the names. So these are the names that were presented when they asked, like, who are you? You say you're 9. They were given the name Atum, Atum, Shu, Tefnut, Geb, Nut, Osiris, Isis, Set, Nephthys.
Fucking A.
And those are the 9 there.
It's the Ennead. He's literally
Yes.
talking to the Ennead. They're not even obfuscating their names in that particular instance. So yeah, I mean, look, and you wonder why Aleister Crowley is doing Babylonian magic inside the Great Pyramids, right? It's like there is still a real spiritual significance to Egypt, and the deities that the Egyptians worshipped still very much alive and well, just not, I would say, not in this physical sense. I think there was a time where they saw them physically, but not the case anymore. Man, that's wild. They're not even hiding their names.
Well, I mean, I think they are hiding their names of who they are behind the Ennead, but they're telling them that we are this, this ancient set of deities from this time period. And of course, what is their message to Puharich? And
I love it.
Yeah, it's literally the same shit that you can find in any yoga studio. And they're talking about they're a guide to humanity, and they're critical to our evolution.
Yeah.
Then they're also timeless entities, but they're here to oversee a cosmic order.
Yeah.
And some of the things that they are really big on is the misuse of technology.
Mm-hmm.
They're big on environmental crises and a looming shift in human consciousness toward enlightenment or collapse.
What is that, Top? That's the Galactic Federation of Light. We have aliens that are here to stop us. What's the technological misuse? destroying ourselves in mutually assured, nuclear destruction and environmental collapse. So they're using these two fronts that we're seeing right now, where the UAPs keep showing up and they're showing an interest in our nuclear facilities. They also show up when missiles are about to be launched and all this other shit. Also climate change, right? So this goes into what we're talking about, where these things are rebranding. And I don't even necessarily know if it's that hard of a rebrand. These things do tell the truth in an interesting kind of way, where it's open to interpretation and you lie to yourself about their nature. Almost seems to be the name of the game. And what I mean by that is, like, yeah, they're probably not pumped if they're trying to get us to the point where we can technologically allow them into this realm, but we f***ed that up by big bombing ourselves. You know what I mean? So it's like, in that way, they probably are a little like, hey, can you stop? Imagine this. Imagine being fallen angels that are trying to work their way back into this physical realm so that they could do something like, I don't know, inhabit a man and have him enter these heavenly realms by creating another Stargate Tower of Babel situation. And this is a long game. And now you're looking at it from wherever you are, some sort of parallel realm, and you're like, I think these motherfuckers might actually be able to kill themselves and each other and actually f*** this planet up. Like, this is not good. We've been pushing them for a long time, and I don't know if you've seen the size of these bombs yet, but they can f*** everything up. So in that way, maybe they actually do care about whether or not we destroy this realm.
I don't know. I think they're trying to listen. I don't know what their goals are, but here's the thing. These are the same people. These are the same 9 that are mentioned pretty much everywhere. So I think you were saying in Greek mythology, there's something called the 9 Muses,
yes,
right? Do you know? All right. Can you like just go a little bit into that?
So
what these 9 Muses are? And
it's peripheral knowledge. I would have been much more erect had I found out that the 9 were a reference to the Greek pantheon. And I think the Greek pantheon actually is like 12 or 13. But I'm sure that you could make an argument that there's a consolidated 9 within the group that are much more powerful and significant. But the 9 Muses are basically the entities that now this is where I get a little confused. I'm not confused. I believe the Muses are who the oracles would speak to. So typically they would have some young virgin, right? Because there seems to be some significance to being a virgin, a female virgin somehow hasn't eroded your connection to the spiritual realm. And there is the Oracle at Delphi, which I thought we were actually going to get into with Austin, but we didn't talk about that too much. But this is a location in Delphi where they're having this Oracle channel these muses. And what's actually happening is there's fissures in the floor of this temple, and beneath it there is a cave with noxious fumes coming up out of the cave and entering this chamber. And this oracle, this young virgin, is getting intoxicated off of these fumes, and it's causing her to have a transcendence experience where she's now, effectively taking a psychedelic and communicating with entities. These entities are the 9 Muses, and these muses are typically, they're like guiding spirits that are they are guiding, actually. That's interesting, because that's what he says if you go back into the notes here. Timeless entities speaking as one voice with a mission of cosmic stewardship over humanity's trajectory. They are trying to guide, you're thinking about Greek or Greece in general. They're all up in galaxy gas. There you go. This is one of the major empires. So of course these entities would have a vested interest in steering. This is a pivotal point, a critical point in steering the trajectory of mankind. So the 9 Muses are just these entities that are disseminating spiritual advice one way or another. Do we go to war or not? Do we do this or not? Do we, implement this agriculture or not? That kind of a thing.
Right. So again, this idea of 9 repeats itself all over the place. Norse mythology, they have the 9 worlds: Asgard, Midgard, Alfheim, Svartheim, Vanaheim, Jotunheim, look at this, Niflheim. That's interesting. That's an ice realm. And
that's where, by the way, what inhabits the ice realm? Ice giants.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. I mean, and the word bears striking resemblance to Nephilim. So yeah.
Right. So we've got there another thing there. We have the 9 Muses in Greek mythology. You have the 9 dragons in Chinese mythology, and it's all like the same. It's literally the same thing. It's just like these different names for these different entities that are supposed to guide or lead or are destinations. Hindu mythology has the Navagara. Again, it's the sun, the moon, Mars, Mercury. It's these 9 lunar nodes that are guiding entities. Therefore, they're in charge of your personal fate. They're in charge of balance through ritual and offerings. It's all the same thing. Mesoamerican mythology, the 9 lords of night. You can go on over and over again. One just popped up again. I was listening to Sam Tripoli's episode with the former Satanist. I forget this guy's name as well. It doesn't matter. But he was talking about the structure of Levian Satanism specifically. And there's like the top guy, and then there are 9 in his council beneath him. Literally
the Council of 9 is the governing body of the Church of Satan.
Yeah, so there is a significance to that number 9, and it could be like some people say 9 is 1 before completion, so it's like one of these things that's almost perfect but not quite. Other people say that it's because of the Trinity, the number 3, and they're just like multiplying it, so therefore it's better. I'm not sure, but there is a significance to the number 9, and it continues to pop up.
Well, that
everywhere.
Ennead, I think, is the biggest one. If you just look at it in Egyptian mythology, right? So the word Ennead is referring to a group of 9 entities in Egyptian mythology, and they were worshipped in Heliopolis, and the members are Atum. I believe this is exactly what you said. Atum, Shu, Tefnut, Geb, Nut, Shu, Osiris, Isis, Set. That's a lot more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
and
7,
Nephthys.
8, 9, and then I guess there's some interchangeable Nephthys. That's a hard one to pronounce. But yeah, so exactly the same names that you uttered only a moment ago that he was communicating with. So I think in that way, by the way, very safe to say he's communicating with the Ennead of Egyptian mythology.
Right. So if within this guy's work of channeling the 9 with this other guy Vinod, they bring in over the years this is over about 20 years of work that he's doing this. They bring in other people like other I don't know, either hypnotists or channelers or psychics or mediums, and they all take turns summoning this same entity or one of these 9. They're talking to this thing for like 20 years, garnering. I'm not even like, again, so the research on it, it's kind of superficial. They tell you some of the things that they were learning, but this is over 2 decades. What did they know?
2 decades of communicating with an ancient fallen angel or a party of fallen angels. Yeah, I wonder what sort of insane things they glean from it. And look, what they glean
from it is listen to this. I mean, again, a lot of environmentalism, shit like that, nuclear fears, new age bullshit, optimism, warnings, and then hopes. It's a lot of like when people get abducted by aliens and they come back with the same story of they just want us to
it's the same. That's what I'm saying. So you could find that what are the odds here? We have several different bodies of spiritual entities that are telling the same exact story, wanting to protect us from destroying our planet, wanting to save us from natural cataclysms and things like that, and also they want you to ascend, or that these things are actually all the same group. It's all the same group. It's just, is it the Galactic Federation of Light? When we were talking about this, I found something very interesting. It's the Council of 9, Council of Saturn, and it is a book that is written by somebody that only identifies themselves as 7 of the 9. And that actually came up recently because there was somebody that was communicating with an entity that we were made aware of, and that entity identified itself as 7. But there's this book out there, and I haven't read the book. I've only seen it. I can't read, but it is out there, Council of 9, Council of Saturn, and there's a subtext to it real quick. I'll tell you what that is. High order of discipline and responsibility. That's the subtext. High order of discipline and responsibility. And this is written by 7 of the 9. And by the way, I believe that the wrap up of it is it's a prophetic warning to humanity by this entity. Maybe I can see if I could find a breakdown here if you just give me a second.
Yeah, it's again, so the MO is always the same. It's this environmentalism, it's this global warming kind of warning for people. And really what, global warming is, or climate change, these climate change alarmists, what they really are is just a weird genocidal cult. Everything that they suggest is at the behest of human beings and just mankind in general. Usually the suggested remedies to climate change are at our own pain and suffering, death.
It's always
most
our
of
own
the time
doing.
detrimental.
That's one of the things. Here we go. So this is actually the description of it. History of the universe, ETs living among you, a collection of wisdom, teachings, and future comings of the earth. So everything is wisdom and teachings, and then warning you about the future comings. That's what these things do over and over and over again. So I'm actually tickled because it feels like we're dealing with a relatively consolidated group of fallen angels instead of looking at these things as all separately. As we do on Nephilim Death Squad, we're constantly trying to draw connections between the Greek pantheon, the Egyptian pantheon, Sumerians and Mayans, and who the Native Americans we're talking to. We believe they're all very much the same characters, Norse mythology, Vedic, etc. And so I think we're dealing with a small consolidated group. Either that, or there's just a lot of entities rolling around in there that they have the exact same MO.
Yeah. Well, okay, now let's talk about these guys' MO. So they're channeling these people or these entities. They're getting new age messages from them. And of course, they're Mother Gaia, and they're only bringing us good information, and they want us to stop us from killing each other.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so that's happening between 1950 and 1970, and actually a little bit beyond, because he recruits the help of this guy named Yuri Geller, which we'll get into in a few minutes, and I'm sure people are already aware of who this guy is. But something interesting happens in between this stuff. And this is the story of this guy. He's like working on all kinds of shit. I think at one point he was working on like a water car. Like, so basically using water as fuel. That's just another thing this motherfucker was doing. But in the 50s, so they don't really know, but between 50 and 1961, a US patent was granted for Andrija Puharich's dental implant technology.
This is so great. This is one of my favorite parts about this guy's story.
Yeah. So all right. So what it is, I'll explain to you what it is. So it's a patented dental implant that utilized radio waves to transmit sound directly into the nervous system via a receiver embedded in the tooth, Bluetooth, some would say.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what's funny too? My wife was like, they actually played off this in an episode of As Told by Ginger. And I remember watching cartoons where this sort of thing, or not As Told by Ginger, Braceface. I think Braceface was the one. So yeah, we've all seen that cartoon at one point or another, where somebody has braces and it allows them to hear, I don't know, like the CBs of trucks driving by or some shit like that.
Right. So it's a voice of God technology. This was supposed to, so here's the medical use for it. Same thing, like we're seeing a lot of overlap with Neuralink right now.
Yep.
But it's originally designed to assist individuals with hearing impairments that implant leverage. So they imprint into the bone, and I guess like the vibration from your tooth would give you a sensation of hearing in your ears.
Well, we've seen that right now.
They
have headphones that actually don't go in your ear. They rest on your skull. And apparently it sounds exactly the same. So yeah, I mean, this is not, you can't even begin to scoff at this sort of a technological mishap, if you want to call it a mishap. There's precedent for this.
I love the idea of, and it just came to my head, the idea of Bluetooth. I don't know how they got that name for that technology, but that's what it is. You put this shit into your ear and it transmits sound. Paranoid says it's called bone conductivity headphones.
Look,
right,
they're on Amazon. You can MKUltra yourself for only $8 for the low price of $8.
You can get brain cancer. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm sure. Not good.
So yeah, the idea of Bluetooth again, it's like this thing goes in your ear. It sends radio waves. You're picking up a radio signal, basically, I guess, from your pocket or from wherever you're transmitting it from. I think it might have some it might have its grounding in what this dude Puharich is doing. Like I said, he's fucking everywhere. The guy, everywhere I look, I'm seeing Andrija Puharich, and it's like for no reason.
It's insane.
Right. So the reason I bring this up as significant is like, well, number one, where did he get this? Why was he working on this upon like doing everything else that he was doing? He's worried about people that are deaf. Well, I mean, he also has ties to the CIA, and he obviously has ties to the army. And from his army base, there's ties to these MKUltra plants. Apparently, there's adrenochrome as well. This dude is just doing it all. So, some people, I guess the normie explanation was like, oh, he was doing a technology, and then it was, subverted and co-opted and then used for voice to God technology.
Yeah.
No, I think that was always the case.
That was always the case. It was he's communicating with the 9, and if there's any crossover between that 9 and the 9 muses, well, then it's safe to say that, or at least safe to speculate, that he was inspired to, engage in these things because of these spiritual entities pushing him, nudging him one way or another. I mean, you talk to him for 20 years. It's a long time.
Yeah, this is what they do. If they are indeed fallen entities, that what they do is they give humanity technology, but I guess they give them the technology. This is how they give it to you.
Yeah.
By giving you the idea.
That's it. That's all they can do because
head.
they can't create. They're not even in this realm in a real meaningful way. They can interact with this realm. They can suggest, they can nudge, they can inspire, but ultimately they can't create. So it's got to be frustrating, right, for these things to be on the other side. They're playing this long game. Look, we're about 100 years away from them being able to create a large particle accelerator under the ground that will create a portal and allow us to go through. But in the meantime, we have to watch them use this that we inspire them to build for like really dumb things. I like to imagine that some of their technology is being used to go in like an e-girl's so that it vibrates every time she gets a donation. And like they like that sort of a thing, but they're also frustrated because this just isn't furthering them coming into this realm. They just have to watch this thing vibrate in this lady's. So they can't really control what we do with the technology. They can only inspire us to create it.
Yeah, they nudge us in a certain direction. And of course, like, the technology does go in the direction that they want, but yeah, it does go, 1,000 different ways as well. Because once you give people, like you said, the ability to, I don't know, create something like the internet, the first thing they're going to do is try to kill people with it. And the second thing they're going to do is put porn on it.
Yeah, and what they don't like they don't mind but what they really don't like is, like, I don't know, you watching cat videos and deriving value or pleasure from that. Shout out to Arcane Arsenal, who says, do muses actively influence, or are they only to be seeked out? I would say that they probably are eager to interact with you one way or another. It's just a matter of how effective you are, right? Like, if you're somebody, maybe genetics play a big component in it. Do you have genetics that are not comparable, but that are, they allow for this sort of an interaction because maybe your ancestors interacted with them in some way, shape, or form, or but whatever the case may be, the more you interact with them, I would say the more that street widens and becomes, a busier kind of an interaction. It happens more often. So I'd say it just depends on the individual and how much you're interacting with them. What do you say? I like the theory that we are just their VR helmets. In a way, we are. But unlike your VR helmet, in which you can actually fully control the character, they don't start that way. They can only start by observing and trying to influence. Eventually, they can possess you. But there's a series of consents and things of that need to be given over. And so it's a long game, and they're willing to play the long game. So eventually, yeah, they probably do get to a point where it's straight up VR. But in the beginning, they're just on an on-rails experience along for the ride and just trying to influence you one way or another.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're at the 38-minute mark. And we have given these people a lot of content. There's a lot more here. So if you want to continue listening and watching, you can go over to our Patreon at patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad. If you follow us at any level, literally the free level, you can join for a free trial, 7-day free trial, or the free level, you can continue watching with us on StreamYard behind the scenes where you see all these people with their cool names. And I encourage you to come there because it's a good way to stay in contact with us anyway. So go ahead, go on over there, and we'll see you in the post show. If not, You'll have to wait a little while until this is edited down and released to the general public.
And
I don't
before
know
we
how
go,
long
though,
that's going to take.
I want to say, I dare you to go to patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad and try to tell me for a second that there's not enough value there to make $5 or $10 a month compelling to you, because we are cranking out content.
If you pay $33, you get telekinesis.
That's right. Telekinesis for $33, baby. Don't complain to us when it doesn't work. All right. So yeah, where were we bringing this next?
1 second. I'm kicking out all.
Yeah, kick out all the pores.
People, and they are out. All right.
I don't know if we
Where
got
were
to
we
it
at next?
top, but
So no, let's continue on with this. So the tooth implants. One of the reasons that this was really interesting to me, besides the MKUltra parallels that are there, because I mean literally right in between, this is created directly in between the functional period of MKUltra, which is like the 20 years 53 to 73.
Okay.
And this was created in 61. So this guy was clearly consigned to make this, and they were using it as a technique, I guess, before they figured out that like drugs could really do a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were using this as like a voice to skull technology, it seems, to maybe make a patient think that they're crazy, or perhaps influence them to do things. And one of the reasons why I think it's interesting is because this is where you get the term tinfoil hat. Believe it or not, there were patients. Obviously, everybody knows, you wear a tinfoil hat to keep the radio waves out of your head. Well, there were patients in psychiatric facilities that might have run into this dude and had this tooth implant put in their head, and they were going crazy. So they started wrapping tinfoil around their head, or it might actually be aluminum foil. I think that's what
Isn't it the
they
same
say
thing?
would block it. I think there's a specific type of metal. I don't know if it's tin or aluminum, but one of these is the best one to block these radio waves. And they were using this. So that's where we get, tinfoil hat from. That's where you
that is so
get your show.
incredible, dude.
This motherfucker.
I mean,
it's this dude.
He's everywhere. He's not only everywhere, but he's also at these fundamental places in conspiracy theory. I mean, to be the father of the concept of the tinfoil hat. I mean, that's our, it's the namesake of one of the biggest shows. Sam Tripoli's show is one of the biggest shows in our community as far as exploring these topic goes. He named it tinfoil hat because he recognized that it was such a terminology that was so associated with the conspiracy theorist that he wanted to, take it back, essentially, is the way he puts it. So, man, I mean, for this guy to be, there you go. Top's always rolling with it. I say every once in a while, how funny would it be if we do go through a really big event? Let's say fake aliens come down and they're going to influence us with the 5G towers that they set up so that the can, all the thermite in it can detonate inside your body. And what stops it from happening is putting tinfoil on your head. I would be the funniest. What is it? Elon Musk says the most entertaining outcome is the likeliest. That would be entertaining as shit. That this whole time they've been demonizing it because it stops whatever it is they're trying to do. Oh, everybody says aluminum poisons you. Aluminum foil does not work, so it has to be.
Right, that's what it was.
Okay.
One doesn't work, one does work. So here's another interesting thing that I don't have in the notes, and I don't even know if I brought it up to you. L. Ron Hubbard.
Fuck.
The founder of Scientology.
Yep.
Scientology was founded in the 70s, the early 70s. There's really no relation to what... Actually, it might have been founded earlier.
This is the same L. Ron Hubbard that's in the deserts with Jack Parsons doing, what's his name? Aleister Crowley's Babylon workings, trying to summon the Moonchild in the deserts of New Mexico. That guy, that L. Ron Hubbard, the super cool boat captain with the really awesome religion that all the celebrities get to be a part of. That L. Ron Hubbard.
This dude. Okay. Actually, so this might predate a little bit, but L. Ron Hubbard, he claimed to have a significant transformative experience during a dental procedure.
Oh.
And yeah, this is a catalyst. It's often cited as a catalyst for his psychological and spiritual theories, though details obviously vary between official Scientology and the critical analysis. Again, this is just another one of these things where I'm not really sure where to put this, but the event's conceptualized to The Reactive Mind, and Thetan's Foundational to Dianetics, that's in 1950, and Scientology, which was created in 1953. Again, right in this golden spot.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, it was patented in 1961, but he's working on it since 1950.
Yeah, there's a sweet spot. It's like 45 to 55. 45 to 55, everything happens.
So this guy almost dies on the table of a simple dental procedure where he's getting a tooth removed and probably replaced, if I'd have to guess. And that near-death experience changed his life, and it changed Tom Cruise's life and a bunch of other people. Leah Remini, go figure. And it's just crazy because, again, Scientology is like this religion of, it's like Raelianism, where it's like a worship of these alien entities.
Yeah, and
this is what it's all about and shit.
It's fascinating, too, because he calls these entities Thetans. And the Theta brainwaves are supposedly the state of mind that you have to be in order to accomplish a bunch of sort of psychonautic explorations. So astral projection and remote viewing and everything. I believe in order to be able to execute those sorts of things, you have to get to the Theta wave. I guess you would do that through meditation. You can use music that's programmed to a certain hertz that has so many beats per minute. I think it's like 180 beats per minute or something like that. And if you lay in a meditative state while absorbing this sort of, hertz and beats, you can get yourself to theta waves. And this is how you explore these concepts, like I mentioned, remote viewing and astral projection and such.
Right. Or, I mean, you can have some kind of other profound experience where they just put something tooth and then fucking blast your brain with what you think is your ideas. Yeah, they're called binaural beats. So again, this guy is showing up everywhere, and I don't know if he's showing up with this L. Ron Hubbard thing, but I thought it was interesting,
very interesting,
like sort of connection.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think too, the idea that any of this ties into the MKUltra program, which is in so many ways, it can kind of be boiled down to traumatizing people so that they can become programmable. And if you do it successfully enough, you essentially create an oracle, somebody that is a spiritual gate or a spiritual middleman between you and whatever it is that you seek to communicate with. And of course, this goes all the way to like Stranger Things, where you've got 11 in an MKUltra based trauma mind control program to unlock her latent psychic abilities, and ultimately to do what? Bridge the gap between this realm and another, and allow some ancient horror to traverse this. So that just goes back to what we were saying before, where it seems like these things have us on an on-rails experience to get us technologically advanced enough. You need these candidates being psychically sensitive people. So MKUltra is manufacturing psychically sensitive people by kidnapping and traumatizing them, exposing them to programming. And then, ideally you have a great candidate for either the middleman analogy that I gave or the doorway opening analogy.
Yeah, this is okay. All right. Are you ready? You know what? Let's take a quick break from Andrija Puharich.
Okay.
And let's go to Brazil for a minute. We'll see something's happening in Brazil. Very interesting.
Sure. This can't be real. Is this real? Jan, you liar, says trauma is the key to cracking open the cosmic egg. Whitley Strieber, who I don't know, if you know me, you know that I bring him up a lot. So that could be a really good troll. If that's not a troll, what the because that's wild. Whitley Strieber being the author of the book Communion, which actually has like a, it's tied into my family, my grandmother and her experiences. It's an actual quote. Unbelievable.
Jan says it's an actual quote. I believe her.
That's all I need. I'm not going to research that. Jan wouldn't lie. Jan wouldn't lie to us. Man.
Not with a name like that.
Not with a name like Jan. Yeah, Jans don't lie. Dude, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, Whitley Strieber creates the book Communion. It's an amalgamation of a lot of people's alien abduction testimony. And so, yeah, I would imagine that if anybody gleamed anything about eggs, sweet eggs, the Orphic egg, the cosmic egg, it's the same thing.
Damn it, Jan. You've distracted us. We're talking about eggs.
Nope,
And,
nope.
yeah,
She
this
just
is
cracked this
egg-gnawing.
open, and this is very important.
cracked
This is
it open.
egg-gnawing.
Yes.
We're there,
Cracked
guys.
it.
We're at the part of the show where it's all about eggs.
We're at the part of the show where we're talking about Brazil.
Let's go,
Okay?
Brazil.
Yes, Brazil in the 1950s again. This is where all this shit takes place. There was a guy named Jose Pedro de Freitas, and he's widely known as Z Arrigo or Dr. Arrigo.
Ah, Dr.
He was,
Arrigo.
Yeah, so
dude.
born in they don't even know when I think he's born in the 20s.
Well, yeah,
but this is
in Brazil
so-
and they don't that's like Cuba. They don't keep records like that.
Right. He changed his name to Dr. Arrigo and became an active healer and some sort of a physician.
But what was he
Here's
before
the
that? It
catch.
was like something innocuous.
Taxi driver. Yeah, like he would drive, like just drove a taxi around.
Yeah.
He was a retard.
Yeah. Well, in Brazil, you have to do so many hours as a taxi driver before you can become a licensed medical professional. So that's their system. That's their culture. Don't make fun of it.
Well, this is actually what kind of hurt him. The licensing part. He was not licensed. People had a big issue with this. As a matter of fact, he didn't even have any formal education or medical training. I don't even know if this guy could read.
Incredible.
So here's what happened. He claims to have at some point channeled the spirit of this guy named Dr. Fritz.
Yeah.
And Dr. Fritz was a dead German surgeon. So
in the that's wild too, by the way. 1950s, we're talking about Brazil, right? And so I know it's not Argentina, but it's still South America where all these Nazis fled after World War II. Allegedly, Argentina is the only place you can access. Antarctica is like over the ice wall type situation or something like that. So I just find that fascinating because if people's spirits can linger here, they're not omnipotent. They're stuck to localities. The idea that he then bumps into Dr. Fritz, a German surgeon's spirit in Brazil, is fun.
He didn't bump into him. He acted like this is the part in Puharich's journey where the CIA has decided now, like, you've done a lot of great work here. So you're going to be our talent scout for supernatural or like basically, I get they run these programs where they're searching for talented people or children, things like that.
Like the Gates program.
So, like the Gates program. So this is, I guess, early Gates program, and he is he gets word of this guy in Brazil that is doing healing, this weird metaphysical healing, and he has no background in medicine. He has no idea, but they called him the Doctor of the Rusty Knife, is what they'd call him in Brazil, and people would line up to go and see him. He would go into a trance. Like this is all from, if you want to know like a deeper dive on this, if you really want to know about this, go to Control Alt Histories page. Yes. He did a good like 30 minutes on this guy, 20-30 minutes where he really breaks it down. They show the video, but like it's just an interesting quick aside because it pertains to what we're talking about here. So he would channel and like go into a trance state and channel this Dr. Fritz, and perform unorthodox procedures using rudimentary tools such as kitchen knives, scissors, or rusty instruments.
Wow.
Often in unsanitary conditions. He would do the surgeries without anesthesia, claiming the patients felt minimal pain due to spiritual intervention.
Also,
he removed tumors.
That there's minimal bleeding, and that not only is he doing this, but the recovery is rapid. I mean, that's a medical professional if I ever seen one.
It's insane. He's removing tumors, excising cataracts, and treating chronic conditions. So he was also like giving advice, telling people go eat this, go do that, and they do it. And well, here's how he was received in Brazil. Thousands of people were seeking help for his ailments because they actually worked.
Wow.
It's in
dude. You know, in Hellboy. So in Hellboy, there's a character, Hellboy 2, Hellboy in the Golden Army. There's a character that is sort of a robot that is inhabited by the spirit of a German doctor. And I think it's something von Klaus or some shit like that. But he's like a scientist and a doctor. He's highly educated, and his entire shtick when it comes to, you know, being an asset to Hellboy's team is his intellect and his experience when he was alive. So to me, this is such a profound thing that gets put into the sort of the pop culture zeitgeist of paranormal and conspiracy that for sure they're drawing off of him. There's no way they weren't drawing off of him.
These stories, nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
So they're going to tell you the same story over and over again. And here it is again. But let me just go ahead and put this right back here. So here's what happened. The guy is doing this stuff for a couple of years, and before they go in, the Brazilian government ends up shutting him down because he's operating without a license and doing shit. But he's actually helping people. He's on video. He healed some girl was blind. He healed her blindness.
He did.
Healing old.
1963. He does an actual procedure where he removes a mass off of somebody's lung, and this is
Yep.
there's actual. It's filmed on silent 8mm film. So this is real. You can actually find these videos. Dude did this. They made a movie about his ass. It's 2022. They made a movie about him. So man, that's wild. That's wild.
Yeah. So in this time frame, Puharich goes down and he checks this dude out, and he finds out what's going on, and his conclusion is that what this guy is doing is legitimate, and he's actually helping people, and he's channeling something, and that's it. He just travels back to America. He's like, yeah, that certainly happened. This guy is definitely doing that. So again, it's one of these things where this guy's doing some crazy shit, and all of a sudden, Andrija Puharich shows up here. Well, here we go. Here's Andrija Puharich in this first scene right here, showing up to check out this guy, Andrija Puharich, on Dr. Arrigo, and he's talking about him being legitimate. This is also our boy Control Old History. Go check out his page. He's does some really great deep dives.
Yeah, this isn't even like that distant past where you wouldn't have evidence of this. There's tons of evidence of this. These people were real people. Gave talks, were observed by people that sought out to debunk them, and it just simply wasn't the case. You couldn't pull it off. Man, it just, once again, just to call back to that like wild west of scientific development. This was such a cool time when it came to exploring these concepts. I mean, cool in the sense that we're not doing it now, but also dangerous in the sense that what you perceive as the ghost of a man might actually be a man's familiar spirit who just knew a ton about him, you know what I mean? And now is helping guide somebody else along some spiritually bankrupt path. But for what it's worth, a lot of people in Brazil would pull back from that because this guy healed them. So what do you do with that shit?
And I'm sure that Puharich was very interested in what he was doing, specifically for the idea of the channeling nature of what this guy was doing. So he probably found took interest in the veracity of that, went out there and said, yeah, I'm doing the same shit over here for like 20 years and it does work. And he continues to do that when he gets back home. Now, here's another interesting part in his, his expedition outside of his little laboratory or whatever he's doing there. He also had like a federation of people that were, they were actually 9 of them. And they were the ones that would channel the 9, but they were also in charge, but
crazy. I'm sorry, can I just interrupt? 9 people that would channel the 9. As soon as you said there were 9 people, a little voice that sounded like Paul Stobbs in my head said, "Dress like the entities that you want to inhabit you." Right? That's what all these people do. So it's interesting because for each corresponding entity of the Ennead, I don't give a fuck, I'm calling it the Ennead. It's literally that's their names. Each corresponding entity has a body to inhabit. So yeah, fascinating.
Yeah. So it seems like he's a scout for this like supernatural kind of stuff. And one of the people that he comes across pretty quickly is a guy named Yuri Geller.
Right.
Who I'm sure you guys have heard of Yuri Geller at some point or another. If you look at the movie The Matrix, the kid that's like bending the spoon when he the first Matrix, when he goes into that little like children's home or whatever the hell that is. This is influenced by Yuri Geller. A lot of alien abduction stuff is influenced by Yuri Geller. Where does he come from? You guessed it. He comes from Israel. He's born. He's Jewish.
He's Jewish. Yeah, it's not even that he's just because he's born in 46 in Tel Aviv, which, British mandate Palestine. That is now Israel. I guess 2 years later becomes Israel. But despite the fact that it wasn't Israel at the time, born to a Jewish mother and a Jewish father. So yeah, big Jew. Big Jew with psychic powers.
Yeah, here's some of the shit that he was doing. So he's on like public TV, and he's showing you these kind of like parlor tricks of what he's doing here, where he's bending spoons.
And look, for the audience, I just want to say we're not unaware that for a period of time it was very popular to make spoons out of a metal that had a very low melting point. So what you see here, people will say, and I'm not saying that he's doing this or he's not doing this, but he's rubbing his finger on the stem of the spoon close to the base of the spoon head. And the conventional argument would be that he's using the warmth from his fingers to heat up this metal that becomes very pliable very quickly because it has a lower melting point than, like, let's say, a mild steel or aluminum or anything like that. But still, it becomes a point of fascination for Puharich.
Right, exactly. So what happens is this guy is doing his little tricks on TV, and Puharich becomes interested. He visits him in a nightclub. I guess he's doing these things in a nightclub, just like doing these weird magic tricks.
As one does.
As one does. So Puharich, already believing in this stuff, went and he was convinced that Yuri Geller was unique in some way.
Right.
So he brings him back to the United States in 1972 to 1973. I think that they didn't have such a great relationship. It doesn't really specify how their relationship was, but it seems like Puharich kind of like honeydicked him into coming back into the United States, and then just did a bunch of tests on him. So some of the tests were performed at Stanford, SRI, and Russell Targ. They're experiments that were testing the extent of this guy's telepathy and his ability to channel and call down other entities. And eventually, Puharich gets him involved with the summoning of the Nine.
Interesting.
And yeah, this is where you'll get this guy Yuri Geller is his work has influenced our culture the same way Puharich's work, but his work is like movies like The
Prestige.
Yeah, movies like that, movies like The Exorcist. They're all based on like the paranormal boom of what was happening with this guy.
Wait, what'd you say there? We lost you for a second.
The paranormal, the ideas of this paranormal boom in the 70s that happened, the rumors of like MKUltra becoming more well known. This is all because of Yuri Geller's kind of his stardom.
Well, let me ask you this, Tom. What do you think? What do you think about Yuri? Was he genuine or was he fraudulent?
Could he bend spoons with his mind? I don't, or was he transmuting the spoon? I'm not quite sure. But again, Puharich took great interest in this guy, and so did the CIA. So they were doing this, and Mossad actually. They were looking into this guy's psychic work, because at the time they wanted to. I think we were like in the middle of the Cold War.
Yeah.
Or just getting into it. So they were really interested in this idea of remote viewing and seeing what was going on the other side of the world. So guys like Yuri Geller were their jumping off point to studying this stuff. And he was dumb enough, I guess, to come to the United States and thought that he was going to get some kind of a fucking contract. But I think he turned more into just basically a real life experiment on what he could do.
Right. Well, I mean, with the Cold War stuff, I know that the rumors basically were like, we were so desperate, or Russia was so desperate, that we were both trying to get whatever edge that we could. And so that was one of the earliest instances of the intelligence agencies starting to look into, things like remote viewing and astral projecting. And apparently to some success, there are stories where remote viewers played a pivotal role in gaining a military advantage over the enemy. And so, but it is worth mentioning here that Yuri and this isn't dismissing Yuri, but it definitely merits some scathing sort of skepticism. He worked as a model, which is in his late teens. He worked as a model. That's a kind of a cry for attention, in my personal opinion. I've known a lot of people who have we were teen models, getting hit by scouters in the mall and like that. But he was also a magician's assistant in Israel. So he was a Jewish magician's Jewish assistant. And, he's learning all these techniques and such. Of course, he denies that is at all what he's doing later on when he's an adult and he's bending spoons and but, something important to keep in mind here where I'm not saying that dismisses Puharich's interest in him, because, of course, if you think there is real concrete validity to psychic abilities and then you're scouting for individuals, well, of course, there are some individuals that if they have a platform, they're going to be more recognizable, easier to find than like some dude who's bending spoons in his basement but not telling anybody. So not necessarily the fault of Puharich, and not to dismiss Yuri, but still to be treated with some real skepticism.
Yeah, but this is a conspiracy show, so we're going to jump on the conspiracy part.
Yes.
Well, it's weird because like with Yuri Geller, there's a lot of people that have like these scientists are like, first they'll say something like, yeah, this guy's kind of interesting and what he's doing here is unique, and then years later they'll walk it back. So there's two instances of that. There's also another instance of Yuri Geller himself saying that Puharich's his studies and his work were all bullshit and bunk.
Right.
He said that like in the late, maybe mid 70s, Puharich's laboratory also burned down in like 1978. So there's some weird, very suspicious, weird internal conflicts going on there. But there's also a tie to NASA. And it has to do with Yuri Geller, and of course it has to do with Andrija Puharich. It seems like NASA paid Puharich $80,000 to. It's weird because they like, in a sense, when I'm reading about this, they're working as partners, it seems, but it doesn't seem like they're partners. It seems like one guy is being poked and prodded and the other guy is doing the poking and the prodding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is what happened here. NASA, of course, gives them money. They want to explore the human limits, like sensory deprivation studies. So, man, what they probably did to this guy is probably horrific. I can only imagine. It seems like this guy's a victim, but he also does seem like he's involved with some.
Well, I like the idea that he would have gotten on their radar in one way, shape, or another. I don't think that you can become a musician. You can become a magician, and then that automatically dismisses any potential abilities that you have. I'm not at all uncomfortable with the idea that there is some sort of precedent for a display of psychic abilities. Could you possibly have always had a natural interest in that, and then as a teenager became a magician? Sure, that's reasonable. And is it also possible for you to be a fraud, and then for these agencies to take up interest in you, and then when they find out that you don't yield any benefits, they're like, okay, let's start experimenting on them. Let's at least make them useful. So it's not yes or no. There's a lot of different variations of what could be the truth here. And so, maybe don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, some of the things that that Puharich said that Geller did in their, I guess in their travels or their experiments. So number one, he was part of this nine in channeling the nine. He reported hearing a mechanical voice called Spectra on tape recordings.
A mechanical
voice? And like some sort of electric mechanical voice. I guess that's how they would describe it in the 50s. Maybe we'd call it something else. Again, here's another interesting number. It's telling them about this the 9 principles. So it claimed to be on a spaceship that was 53,000 light years away. And yeah, this is happening. This guy is channeling these entities. He's recalling this stuff under hypnosis. And again, they're reporting the same things that this entity is telling them. It's more new age stuff. It's more of basically what the 9 has been telling Puharich all these years.
That's interesting.
So
what was it called? The 9 Principles?
Yeah, the 9 Principles from so the name of the voice was called Spectra, and it was claiming to be an intelligence apparatus or an intelligence entity from Hoova, Hoova, and that's like it's
like it's close, right? Because when you say 9 principles, I think 9 powers and principalities.
Yeah.
Spiritual beings that oversee or are responsible for ruling certain areas. And so, I mean, that's where my mind goes immediately. And then Hoova is almost Hova, Jehovah. That's very weird. Yeah.
Honestly, it feels like they're just giving them whatever names now at this point, and the names don't even really matter. They're just going to tell them some bullshit. If you believe it, great. And most of these people did. But another interesting part is that it's like they when under hypnosis, Yuri Geller recalls all this stuff, and then he later again walks it back, saying like, no, I wasn't abducted by alien entities. No, this never happened. But he said that he did before.
So that could be a number of things, right? He could be experiencing ridicule on behalf of the scientific community. It's one thing to explore these topics. It's another to then say that you were abducted. And even still to this day, we have people struggling with their own abduction stories. Or maybe he feels that wasn't, if it genuinely wasn't true and he's telling the truth, then the question becomes, why did he say that? And when you put somebody in a state of hypnosis, they become very open to suggestibility. People typically look at that as being open to what the hell's the word? Suggestion by the hypnosis. But what if you're open to suggestion by spiritual entities?
He was, that's what it feels like. He was using this guy Yuri Geller as like a doorway. They looked at him as he looked at him as a messianic figure,
just a
or something
hole.
like that. Yeah, just a hole, literally a portal, a hole to talk to these other things. But he thought that he was going to be a key person to avoid disasters like nuclear war, all the shit that the 9 was saying.
Yeah.
It just seems like this guy, for whatever reason, had the correct genetics, Jewish genetics, to transmute from one realm to the other.
By the way, disproportionately high rate of schizophrenia amongst Ashkenazi Jews.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very interesting thing. Among other things, Puharich said that Geller transported a dog through a wall, and he would
meaning he fucking threw a dog against the wall really hard.
Yeah. I think what he's saying here is that like he dematerialized this dog and other objects and put them through a wall.
Huh.
These were like the kind of
all of this has to do with,
he transmuted metal into gold, things like that.
and this is all done through I would say like the electromagnetosphere, right? So the example I would use is during really intense storms, there has been anecdotal instances of like winds so high and so powerful that they somehow drove a piece of straw, meaning hay, through a stop sign. And these are instances you can find. This sort of thing happens. This was played off of a lot like in cartoons when we were a kid, just like the, speaking with entities through your braces or a dental implant. And people even speculate that during 9/11 off the coast of New York City, there was a sizable tropical storm that like behaved oddly. It just lingered there during the whole event. And people were saying that the reason that a Boeing 727 or whatever it was able to take down a building that was built to withstand that impact is because it was altered on such a level that the same effect with the straw and the stop sign took place with the plane and the towers. So somehow you're able through the manipulation of electromagnetic frequency alter something on a molecular level to make it permeable in some way, shape, or form. So to me, yeah, and I mean, boom, gray pill, that's alchemy, baby. They're doing alchemy, essentially, transmuting one thing into another or altering something on its fundamental level is alchemy. So just something I wanted to vomit very quickly. Thank you.
Yeah, in the end of the day, this is what Puharich says that he saw this guy do, and they're unsubstantiated claims, of course. So I guess like in the end, people don't know exactly where to put this guy. Was he a patsy? Did he have any of these powers or abilities? And science, of course, doesn't really, I mean, I guess they want to look into it, but they really don't want to know, if that makes any sense. But it's so funny how we can go from the 9 who are saying that they're the, basically they're the Ennead. They're giving you those names, but they're also the 9 muses. They're also the 9 dragons. They're also in, Norse mythology.
By the way,
These
dragons
are
are what? Seraphim?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
specifically that type of dragon, like this Chinese dragon with
the serpentine,
with these weird wings,
flying dragon, Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent. You know what I mean? Like this serpentine dragon. What's his name from Dragon Ball Z? Damn, what's the guy's name? What's the big?
Yeah, Shenron.
Shenron looks like Shenron, not the Namekian Shenron, the Earth Shenron, or whatever. So yeah. I mean, the connections are just—it's the gift that keeps giving.
Yeah. So right. So again, these entities that are relating themselves to these ancient deities across all of the across the entire mythology of humankind, they are also now being compared to aliens, because a big part of Yuri Geller's work or his experimentation was being abducted by aliens or coming into contact with these aliens who are light years away. And again, they're saying the same thing. It's like they present themselves to the subject how they think the subject would want them to be presented. So maybe in the 50s, ancient Egypt was the thing.
It was. No, you're right
more...
about that. It was sexy. Ancient Egypt was sexy. You can see this in like The Mummy. The film The Mummy. So this is around the times I would wager that the museum institutions in America and also in England and Britain became obsessed with Egyptian architecture and hieroglyphics and everything. So yeah, I would say that's probably, you're right about that. This is at a time where Egypt was sexy.
Yeah, and then later on, obviously what's sexy is more this supernatural kind of thing, but aliens in the 70s.
Yeah.
So now they're presenting themselves as aliens to Yuri Geller, but saying the same message. And again, it's like, it's weird too. Like they're talking about these 9 principles. Mm-hmm. They can't get away from the number 9. It seems like it's tied to them. Like they have to get you to consent, but they're only allowed to lie to a certain extent. It is what it seems like. So
it looks like the way they lie, like I said, is they'll tell you the truth, but in some vague way that's void of details. In the same way that good music, allows you to attach your own baggage and ideas to the lyrics, is the same way that they will say a thing that is relatively open to interpretation. Is the truth, technically speaking, but what then happens is it almost seems like we put all this extra baggage and make a lot of assumptions about their nature.
Right. I guess, yeah, maybe that assumption comes from our subconscious. Like they're able to, if aliens are these same entities that could possibly have access to your brain or to the Rolodex that is your brain, it would kind of make sense that they'd be able to see what you're interested in and then present themselves in that fashion. So that way, like, they're like, I know what he'd accept right now.
So when I was watching The Immortals, and I've been talking about that recently, how there's a moment where Zeus is standing and behind him there's a mural of a fallen angel, and it's kind of like Hollywood's way of nodding, like, yeah, the Greek pantheon were fallen angels. Well, there's also several moments where, like, Zeus is trying to get a half mortal, half god, I believe, so a Nephilim, to do something on behalf of the pantheon. I forget what it is, but he stresses over and over again about how you cannot interfere in any meaningful way. This has to be his idea, or it has to be perceived as his idea. He has to perceive it as his own idea. That seems to be the most important component. So, and look, that's still what happens. We're talking about the muses. How many people go forth and they create pieces of art, and they don't even realize that this idea was dropped in their lap. Dr. Jerry Marzinski, Everybody Have a Drink, says upwards of 80% or more of your thoughts are not your own thoughts, right? And so,
isn't that the idea? That's the idea of the plot of Inception, right?
Yes. And what are they doing it through? They're doing it through a dreamscape in Inception, which is also the same realm that these entities use. Yeah, man. Huge,
Well, when
huge
you're going
overlaps.
as you mentioned at the top of the episode, when you're going to this trance-like state, these they'll use binaural beats or certain frequencies, meditation techniques to get there. It's the same thing as REM sleep.
Yeah.
So it's we're describing the same thing in, I don't know, 30 different ways,
30 different
9
ways.
different ways. Yeah. 33 different ways, 42 different ways, 77 different ways, 9 different ways. We're describing the same thing over and over. And I'm surprised people even listen to this show anymore because it's the same shit.
I know.
over,
Sometimes I feel bad
over
because it
again.
feels like we're saying the same thing, but I think what actually comes through is these epiphanous moments where we're connecting dots, because that's why I don't get tired of talking about the same thing. It's always like I've got one big ass puzzle that I'm busy trying to solve, and every once in a while another piece clicks in. And when that piece clicks in, the rest of it lights up. And so for a brief moment, it's worth bringing it all up again, which happens over and over again. Can we talk a little bit about, I don't know where you wanted to go next, but I'm fascinated as to what these elf waves, or what does that even mean?
Okay, yeah, elf waves, that's extremely, so this is another it's another invention that Puharich developed in the 70s, or I guess he was studying. It's not really an invention because these things exist. They're called extremely low frequency electromagnetic waves, or ELF waves.
Okay.
They range from 3 to 30 hertz and occur naturally in Earth's magnetic field. I think, and I'm not sure, but when a lion will roar at you, and you've played the Pokemon game where they have an attack like roar,
And it causes,
and
in some instances it'll cause paralysis or it'll cause them to run. So are you starting to touch on infrasound?
I think this is what this guy was looking into, and this could also be attributed to a slew of different cryptids.
Like when cats, which are the best, and they purr, and that's a very low frequency that people swear has healing abilities. In fact, people will use cats for therapeutic purposes, like almost like a service animal. The purring is like this calming effect. So maybe even a much more potent version of the same thing.
Well, this is what Puharich theorized. He thought that ELF radiation, because it's like I guess it's a frequency, but at such a low vibration, it's probably perceived at it seems more physical to us, which is again, I think that's why you have, shit, man, the idea of sleep paralysis. Like it can go back to this, but I think it's all the same technology or the same, what's the correct word? Like attributes, the same attributes that these entities have and can use. So like a Bigfoot will give you like a guttural growl, and a dog man will growl, and people they're like, man, I just froze him in place. I couldn't move. I was paralyzed with fear. Same thing with sleep paralysis. You're completely paralyzed, feel like you're being electrocuted, and that's like the physical aspect of it. But Puharich thought that these kind of low frequency waves could penetrate neurological processes and alter your brain activity.
That makes sense because people who are experiencing sleep paralysis, remember we were talking to, I think it was Nick potentially of Occult Rejects, might have been somebody else, but I know we've talked about it a couple times. That state of paralysis, that vibrational state that you're feeling, for some people who can astral project, is the first stage to astral projecting. So you want to talk about a vibration or a frequency that can alter your brain's function or your ability to perceive. This frequency, this vibration, is associated with leaving this physical realm and entering an astral realm. So I mean, once again, that tracks pretty hard.
Yeah, well, it gets even crazier with these ELF waves. Again, so they're studying. He's just studying. I'm just looking into it to see what it does. And of course, since he's a CIA spook, they have to figure out how to weaponize it. And one of the things that they were seeing, obviously they're seeing the brain activity and how it influences behavior, but not just influencing behavior. They want to see if they can manipulate behavior, enhance people's cognitive functions, induce states of altered consciousness, affect your emotional state based on this resonance, which they can.
Yeah.
I think that it just depends on which frequency you're tuned into, and possibly even the subject that you're doing it to, like how latent are their psychic abilities. I think that,
so back in the 90s, I know that there was a famous study being conducted where they put a simple electrode on the brain of a cat, and the cat, was obviously alive. So this was done through surgery. And with that electrode, they were able to just send electric impulses back to the cats. Thank you, Stony. Send electric impulses to the aggression centers of the cat's brain. And what they were able to do was either create a very docile cat that you could do whatever the hell you wanted to, or a hyper aggressive cat. And all that mattered was just sending a very simple electronic pulse, a frequency, a vibration into this cat's head, and then effectively you're controlling its behavior. So yeah, I mean that's a very simple version. I'm sure they found a lot more. I'm also sure they've probably done this to humans.
Yeah. Oh, this is what I think they did to Yuri Geller. So as they're studying this, they think that these elf waves could affect. I mean, they affect the brainwave patterns, but they think that they could enhance psychic abilities, telepathy, things like that, which is what they thought Yuri Geller had. So this dude was MKUltra. He was probably the MKUltra. Like, how they're searching for that 11, the special subject that they can do this. Yeah, it seems like he was one of them, or at least somebody that we know of, because they found him from the TV. He was doing these things in public, broadcasting them. So he's one of the special that we do know of. Yeah. And it seems like elf waves had a lot to do with what they were doing. But it gets even crazier. It gets more Jewish as well.
Oh, very nice. They cut his
there's
penis
environmental.
Oh no, he was born. He was born a Jew. Yeah, never mind. He's had his penis.
They're born without that skin. Yeah, they don't even. Yeah, they've evolved and adapted so that way a rabbit doesn't have to bite it off.
That's right. I hear that it's actually very detrimental to your psychic abilities to have your skin cleaned off your penis like that. Not good.
Not great. Not the best thing to do. So there's health concerns obviously with this, and environmental concerns clearly. People were worried about the elf waves disturbing the climate.
Interesting.
So shifting weather patterns or other unexplained natural events, and it's like, all right, so now we're talking about HARP. Right.
Well, I was gonna. What it brought me to first, before you even evolved to HARP, the technology for HARP is probably inspired by this. But cloud bursting. You ever see cloud bursting, where people are using alleged psychic abilities to dispatch clouds in the sky? You ever seen that?
No.
Yeah. So how I really like to watch black people make like whirlwinds with their hands on the ground and stuff, and I go, wow, that's really fascinating. There are those who can, same way that guy. Speaking of black people, is another black dude who called a local news place and was like, yeah, come down to the beach or whatever it is, and I'll summon in a UFO. And sure enough, they show up ready to laugh at him, but he does it on bursting. No, that I see what you're looking at. That's just cloud bursting, as in it rains. Like, you have to do like psychic
You're talking
cloud
about
bursting.
People doing it. Okay.
Yeah, because it's not making it rain. What they do, and obviously there's some precedent for that too when it comes to the Native Americans, but I mean like this idea that you could focus on and disperse a cloud in the sky, and I've seen people show it off a couple times on video, so I wonder if it's the same thing.
Oh, this is in the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats. There was a dude that cloud bursted.
Yeah. Huh. That's right. And The Men Who Stare at Goats is based off of the CIA and the military-industrial complex's interest in psychic abilities.
Okay, well, this leads us to our next point here: the potential misuse of elf waves, which obviously is what they're going to do with them. Of
course, yeah.
They're using them as a tool for mind control, like just suggesting things to people.
I heard the first thing they asked was, how can we, if at all, apply this to abortions? I would love to figure out how we can apply psychic abilities to abortions, but that didn't really stick, so they stuck with the nuts and bolts of things. But that doesn't mean
I'm sure
it's
you
not
could kill a baby.
elsewhere.
You could probably kill a baby with some ultra low frequency stuff. This is also Sam Tripoli shit, right? Where he's like, loves to talk about like low frequency vibration gangsters and stuff like that.
Look, Cliff High, according to Def Not Egger Salad, says Cliff High has done some cloud bursting, and I won't look it up. I'm just gonna believe what you say, Def Not. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So this elf stuff, it goes hand in hand with what Puharich was doing with his teeth implants, right? It's a great vehicle to transmit these frequencies if you have the the piezoelectric crystals already in somebody's brain or in their tooth that can just vibrate their entire head. I think a question is, could they? Well, it's not really a question. No, if they're manipulating the weather, or at least they were negatively affecting the weather, which gave them pause as to what they were doing, because I guess as they're doing this stuff, they're seeing all the side effects of everything else, and then they're running with those side effects. So they could, I guess, they could technically just unleash this on the public.
Yeah.
Which,
well, look, check this out. Arcane Arsenal says there was a guy that talked about the dangers of ultrasound for preborns, which is wild because we were just joking around, like, how do we use this technology to kill babies in the womb? And they're like, dude, that's already covered. That's a fundamental part of the birthing experience in the baby industry, right? In the medical apparatus is, nuke them with some ultrasound real quick so you can get that cool picture to show your homies that looks like an amorphous gray blob, but means everything to you. So, yeah. That would be awfully nefarious if that was the case, if ultrasound was to the detriment of preborn babies.
I mean, really, what is it? It's like, it's probably making he's a little retarded.
Probably.
It's the same technology, and who knows what frequency that stuff is tuned to. Damn, do we really need like the ultrasound?
No, we don't need. I mean, look, they're doing it to make sure that the baby's healthy, allegedly. But this just goes into the big business of baby making that we talked about with Alexandra on that previous episode. Just the inserts, I believe, is her work. Or just
you can see it if you're subscribed to the Patreon.
That's right. And it was a great conversation,
there.
and it was an excellent episode. But we got really deep into this idea that women in the West here have been convinced that they can't have a baby any other way, despite having done it for thousands of years without medical intervention from a giant industry. Well, now the industry of baby making is a well-oiled machine. If you looked at the revenue production from that industry, it would probably be rivaling the big boom in the pharmaceutical industries that we've seen over the past 5 years. So, pretty nefarious in a lot of ways. And I would suck to find out, but it would be totally unsurprising to find out that ultrasound is hugely.
Yeah. As I'm looking at this, because again, this guy is all over the place with his research, but I wonder if he was interested in the work of Rife of
Royal Raven Rife. I mean,
Rife.
this is all frequency based technology. I would imagine. I wonder if Rife has a setting on his Rife machine where it could go astral projecting. It's going to give you 48 hertz, and you listen to some binaural beats, and then you go and talk to Royal Raymond Rife, which is Matt Rife's great uncle, I think, or great uncle. But yeah, this guy, he does seem to be everywhere in one way or another. Cultural echoes.
It's the same exact technology, except he's working on ultra low frequency stuff, whereas Rife seemed to be looking to help people with his frequencies like that he was dialing in. So yeah, it echoes the same work. It's the same work, except this guy is trying to use it nefariously.
Yeah,
which is it makes a lot. Actually, when did Rife die?
I don't know, but I'm looking at here that there are within the ET thing. So I think this is going to play
David
into
right.
What's that?
Rife died in 1971.
There you go. So he was alive at the same time. He's going through all that.
Well, why did he die? I mean, he died when. So the elf studies started in the 1970s, and he dies in 71. I don't know. I'm not going to make any connections here that we don't really have to.
We do that constantly, though. So within the Galactic Federation of Light narrative, there is the 9, and they're ET guides. They're just alien guides who same exact, very concerned with the development of mankind, very concerned with us treating our planet well and not killing each other with weapons of war when the technology should be used for something else. He died when we got off the gold standard. That was the last straw for
1971.
But
ooh, boy.
That 9 thing is one that I think is really fascinating because I don't know why. Maybe I live in a fantasy realm, but in my mind, I'm like, if we could just know the names of these entities, that would be probably to our benefit. The Galactic. I'm trying to see real quick if we can find a connection between.
They're not gonna tell you their names. So as you're talking about this Galactic Federation, because this is where this stuff naturally leads.
Oh,
right?
wait. By the way, check it out. Here
leads
we go. The 9 of the Galactic Federation of Light refers to the Arcturian Council of 9, who are beings from the 9th dimension. So yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
With every single time you come across some sort of Council of 9, they are very concerned with the direction of humanity. That's their MO. Their MO. It's the same entities, just rebranded. And I mean, man, did we nail that early on, because we were on the Best Political Show the first time that we got to be on that show, and that was what we were telling everybody, was that these things, these aliens, they're just a rebranding. It's the exact same shit, though. They're symbols they carry along with them, their interests, their messages, all this shit. The most important thing, it just changes faces and it just changes names, but otherwise, it's the exact same shit.
Well, here's more exact same shit. In the 1970s to the 1980s, the CIA again had a project, called it Project Stargate, or the Stargate Project,
Which is wild.
Yeah, so its purpose was psychic espionage. This is to probably spy on the Russians in the Cold War, shit like that. And of course, while you're at it, how can we weaponize this thing? So there were military applications, and they were doing things in Maryland, it seemed, to spy out enemy facilities. This is all happening during the 70s. So here are some of the tenets of Project Stargate. Now, keep in mind, we're doing something similar right now, and I don't really know how these things overlap, but some of the main tenets were, number one, alien contact is what they were worried about. This is the CIA. So they're making weird extraterrestrial claims, and we know this because there's declassified documents, and there's also anecdotal reports that are saying some of this stuff. There are a number of entities, whether they're interdimensional, psychological, extraterrestrial, or other, which is kind of what we covered here. But I think we're assuming that these are all the same entities, like these 9 or.
So I mean, look, there was a point where the CIA allegedly was in contact with something called the Council of 9. And, we're talking about whether or not it's the same entities. They could have the same MO. There might be some stand-ins. Some might drop out. Some might step in, right? And even the Council of 9 that the CIA were allegedly in contact with sometimes was also the Council of 12. And these are super intelligent entities that exist outside of our own space-time situation. But is that so different? Because when you look at the Greek pantheon, there were 12. So this thing becomes interchangeable. Sometimes they're 9, sometimes they're 12. It doesn't matter. It's the CIA, the intelligence communities. They're talking to these things, and they always have the same MO. But I am open to the idea, Top, that we talk about it often. Within the kingdom of darkness, there is chaos. It's not God's kingdom. It's not order. These things are rebellious assholes who rebelled against God. Almost certainly they rebel against each other. So from one period or another, one holds power. If there's a consolidated 9, the idea that 1 or 2 drop out occasionally, another one takes its place, not at all. I don't even think throws a monkey wrench into this theory.
Right. Well, oh my gosh, there's so much that goes. I mean, and it's just like a rabbit trail of like the devastation that this guy has created, or like that have led through his name, is just insane. You can go off to 1,000 different trails. But let's talk about again. So Project Stargate, one of their other core tenets was technology. Mm-hmm. So obviously the technology part is where we're going to get Andrija Puharich, and they were focused on the dental implants, the mind control in that way, electromagnetic influence. So that's his elf waves, or his study on elf waves, and how that could translate into their different MKUltra projects. Here's a very interesting part. So we have aliens, we've got technology, and now we're going to move into occult methods. So the CIA was actively using Ouija boards to facilitate communication with the entities. So they're blending science with the esoteric, and it's just like, how many times are we going to see this before we just just say outright, these are the same things.
And what seems to have happened is that it went underground, though, right? Because nowadays, and for the past, I don't know, probably since like the 80s or 90s, this has been referred to as pseudoscience, which is an unserious realm of scientific inquiry. And clearly at one point, this is just like the MKUltra program, right? Where like they discontinued it. I think all that happens when they discontinue a program is it becomes widely implemented. So if the MKUltra program went away in any meaningful way, it was only because they were ready to roll it out on the general public. So if we seriously were studying the paranormal supernatural connections and the overlap between that and the scientific technological communities, if we stopped that at any point and started to ridicule anybody who started to look at that seriously, that to me suggests that they got ready to roll it out in a real serious way. They no longer needed, because at some point you do need, right? Puharich is looking for candidates for this sort of a field of study. Well, what happens when you've got all the information you need and you don't need candidates anymore? Well, you close it off and then you just start to operate, you know, in a way that is indicative of certainty. I now know what I'm doing. We no longer need output or input from Yuri or anybody else. And also in a way that's like the general public cannot know what we're doing. So it's best to ridicule and dismiss anybody who would organically look into this on their own, you know, dismiss them as engaging in pseudoscience. So I still alive and well, dude, 100%. We just see it in a different way now.
Well, now we're, man, all right, so let's tie this up, because I think I know how this does relate to what we're doing today with $500 billion and our Project Stargate via Trump and Sam Altman and
crazy.
Probably Elon Musk. Yeah, it's, again, well, here we go. Let's cover this. Some of the techniques that they were using, they're trying to channel these aliens or entities. Again, it's like, it's kind of ambiguous on what they're channeling. They're not quite sure what they're looking at, but they don't know what to call it, whether it's interdimensional or spiritual or from galaxies far away, whatever. There's a woman, Carla Ruckert. She was one of the people that she channeled the entity named Ra. She got something for the Law of One from it, and she wrote a book. Now, this entity influenced her to use sexual rituals to amplify the spiritual connection between whatever it was doing on the other side and what she was doing there. So
Crowley and
it's a
sex
very
magic.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's more Crowley and sex magic. They don't. She doesn't really say, but I could assume it's a lot of butt stuff that she's doing.
Lots of butt stuff, yeah.
Now, here's an interesting part about what I've uncovered, because and this could be an entire episode in itself. It's what happens to these people during this time frame who have these weird government ties, who were possibly involved with Project Stargate. Most of them most of their stories end in tragedy.
Yeah,
so
what
this
kind
lady
of tragedy?
All right, Don Elkins is Carla's her partner or her collaborator in this, and again, like these people definitely have ties to the CIA. But this guy started becoming paranoid. And in 1984, he got away from whatever he was doing, and he just happened to take his own life. So committed suicide.
Which, to me, I just want to toss this out there. I don't think anyone, and I'm saying full stop, anyone is committing suicide without the influence of some dark entities, because the very thing that whispers to you that you're an irredeemable piece of shit is something that is outside of you.
I'll go even crazier. I think these people, when you're this close and you're talking to these things face to face, I think that they might even have the ability to kill these people.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Just for some reason, this is like, because when you're talking about like weird demonic possession, sure, they can influence you on a certain level, but when you're in league with them to this level, I feel like they could actually physically you've given them consent to a certain level. You're doing sex magic with them. They can reach out and touch you. You've crossed that Rubicon. You've torn down that veil
right around your That's the Rubicon you've crossed.
That's the Rubicon. And they rimmed it, and now they're full blown inside of you.
That's it. Yeah.
Another woman, Jane Roberts, who channeled the entity named Seth, she ends up, she faced emotional exhaustion and died relatively young, also in 1984.
Oh, well, she's a woman. So I can totally understand women dying of emotion. That actually tracks. So not too.
Well,
strange.
Richard Shaver.
Okay.
After documenting a couple of traumatic experiences, he died in just mental decline. Went completely crazy.
Okay, so one person died of emotion, and the other person just died of like brain power just shut down. He just died.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is what they're reporting is that like they were experiencing extreme mental decline, extreme emotional stress.
Go figure.
And then they die. Yeah, so it's like whatever they were privy to, it seemed like it had like a extreme effect on them. Like maybe every time you commune with something like this, you just lose more
taxing.
And more of yourself.
You lose more and they gain more. So the more interactions you have with this thing, the more sort of a grip it has on you, and the more of yourself that you lose. I wonder if these people would have been notably physically degrading towards the end, because I don't imagine that you suffer from these mental ailments in such a way that it doesn't reflect on your personal visage. And if it does, then that just reminds me of the Dr. Jerry Marzinski thing, where these voices just chew away, and this person just looks worse and worse, and it never gets better. Their mental fortitude spirals, but so does their physicality, because these things are attached. So to me, that's exactly where my mind is at as you're telling me these.
Yeah. And then there's other like just conspiracies that are around, ufology or talking to these aliens, people that are obsessed with the aliens. This guy, Kyle Odom, he's convinced to do, he kills a pastor of a church he thought was an alien infiltrator. This happened in 2016. Mental instability, lost his mind. He's also one of these new age practitioners. David Koresh, who people here are probably familiar with.
Yeah.
His cult was big into ufology.
Yeah.
It's something that
also they were
into pay attention
end times. So they were an end times cult. Definitely into ufology, obsessed with the number 7. I'm imagining because it pops up so much in the Book of Revelation. The branch Davidians. I didn't know that we'd end up here.
77 of them dead, including David Koresh. So 76 of his followers and himself
77
died after the standoff. Yeah, which as a libertarian, when I was a libertarian, I always thought it was it was gun stuff that had the ATF storm their ranch there, but when you look a little bit deeper, it seems a little more
spiritual,
nefarious.
Yeah. It was to me, and shout out to John from yesterday's conversation. That was a mass. Right, 77 of them. They're obsessed with the number 7. It's an end times cult. Yeah, I mean. It's I hear he was pretty talented too. I hear he was one hell of a musician. So I don't know. I just know I learned about them when I was younger, because of course David Koresh and the Davidians being obsessed with the end times and the number 7 is gonna stick out to me. And the more you look into it, the more just the darker and more fucked up it gets. So yeah, to me that seems like a big ritual sacrifice.
Check this one out. This one I haven't studied too much, but this guy Philip K. Dick, he was a sci-fi writer. He reported to be in contact with an entity named Valis, Valis.
That sounds like Valiant Thor.
Yeah. So the being, it imparted Gnostic knowledge on this guy with a pink ray of light.
I'm sure it also
and
his butt.
Probably. I mean, yeah, this is like
free, baby boy.
Saying the quiet part out loud there, and the quiet part's a fart. Butt queefing. So guess what this was triggered by? His initial experience with this entity.
What was it triggered by? It was a psychedelic experience.
No, one more guess.
Dental implant.
Dental surgery.
Let's go!
Bingo. This guy lost his mind and ended up dying in 1982. So all eyes also are on Stephen King, because Stephen King is running in these circles 100%.
Unbelievable.
For sure. Yeah. Then we have L. Ron Hubbard, who I covered here as well. I think that he's a little bit more tied into Andrija Puharich than people like to think. It's something about that. It just doesn't
it's
sit
interesting
right.
that he saw fit to be a captain. So what you'll find is that a lot of celebrities and I guess what we would call elites have their like submarining license. Like they're obsessed with diving. They're obsessed with the water. This came up when we had those guys, the billionaires in the submersible. Remember that? And it ended up looking like some sort of like creature associated with Solomon, and ended up being this really big sort of ritual. But initially the public was like, what the are these billionaires doing in a submersible? And what ended up arising from that was like, oh, you'd be surprised, actually, how many incredibly wealthy elite individuals seem to have some obsession with, nautics in one way or another. So to me, it's interesting because you have L. Ron Hubbard in his extremes, right? He is a captain, and a lot of this is like he's got his own boat and shit like that, or he's in the desert. He's in one of these extremes.
Right. And man, here I guess my last piece here is just another, just driving it home for the people that are in contact with these entities or have been contacted constantly. Another guy, Richard Shaver, very famous UFO account guy. His stories come from like the 40s, I think, so they predate Puharich. But another one, he thought he was having auditory hallucinations. He ended up in jail. He's popularized in magazines later because he's one of, the first people to really talk about this. But this guy also suffers an extreme mental decline. And by the 1970s, he just like goes into isolation and loses his mind. Nobody really knows what. I mean, I'm sure he's dead by now, but it seems that when people channel these entities, their psychological stability is often fractured.
The guy who dealt with the Spiricom, Bill O'Neill,
right?
He also, by the end of his life, so just going back to the Spiricom, this is something that people are traveling from far and wide in the scientific community to debunk one way or another, this idea that a piece of technology allows you to communicate with spiritual entities. And there was one guy in particular that we talked about on that episode, Bill O'Neill. And if I'm not mistaken, by the end of his life, he was full-blown schizophrenic. Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, like, this is the greatest. You're talking entities, schizophrenia, ancient Egypt and Babylonian entities, the origins of the tinfoil hat. There's so much MKUltra and Aleister Crowley and everything. This is like the idea that this guy ever flew under the radar is this is insane.
Has there been an episode on like tinfoil hat about this guy? Because I've heard of this motherfucker's mentioned in an episode. Heidi Love did an episode about assassination, and his name pops up prominently. What?
Wild.
It's crazy.
I mean, the JFK says, what are you going to tell me next? Next, he's somehow a part of 9/11, right? Can we throw out any other big conspiracy theories? We're talking about the Galactic Federation of Light, and everything seems to have just a little element of Puharich in it, just a little sprinkle, a little dash of Puharich for you. Incredible, man.
It's either, I mean, it's a dash of Puharich either on a first-hand account or directly. Yeah. I mean, on a direct account or through influence on what he's done. It's really just bizarre. And I'm sure, you know what, man, like we've covered pretty much everything that we want to. Actually, no. Let's go back really quick again, because all this stuff that I was talking about this is with the Stargate project. So we were talking about the negative effects of all this stuff.
Yeah.
How does it relate to today's Stargate issue?
Right. In where we're taking allegedly $500 billion and we're dumping it into an unholy marriage of AI technology and technology. And I don't know what the hell that's going to yield, but we talk about often how if they truly are trying to inhabit Donald Trump with the spirit of Nimrod, the same Nimrod who was the king of Babylon, who created the Tower of Babel, which some speculate is a Stargate, well, that's uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah. Well, exactly. So it can go to the idea of Nimrod. I think it goes to everything. But this is like my initial idea about AI being the Nephilim or demonic entities, and the Nephilim being aliens or the product of these fallen. So if these 9 that we're talking about here, if they are fallen angels, which I'm not even sure that they are, I think that they are just probably higher up Nephilim or products of the fallen angels. I don't think fallen angels really fuck with us that much anymore. I think that they're like,
this kind of goes
there.
back to what we said yesterday. Remember where we were talking about that guy's music video on Tyler Yankee's Daddy Yankee show, and we were
Daddy
saying
Yankee,
that he was saying that this guy in the music video was saying that his depression is not depression, it's actually spiritual entities, and that those spiritual entities are identifying as like the serpent in the garden. And one of the things that we mentioned about that, among many, is that these things will lie to you about who they are in the hierarchy. You know what I mean? They're going to tell you they're the biggest potential baddies of them all. But this isn't necessarily trying to scare anybody, Top. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know that you gain anything. If they said they were entities by a different name, it still would have been profound that they were entities at all. But instead, they identified with this Ennead. And I do think that some of the Nephilim would have positioned themselves as gods in one way or another. But I don't think that there's any substitute for those lowercase g gods, those fallen angels, because those are the things that when they came down would have blew the pants off of people. Loincloths would have been dropping as soon as they touched dirt because they're just so powerful and so obviously spiritual. So I in this instance, I can recognize in an attempt to strike fear in an individual, you can pretend to be a bigger baddie than you are. But in an attempt to win over individuals to your plight and convince them that you're an ally, I don't know of what benefit it is to tell them that you're the Egyptian Ennead.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what benefit it is to them. I don't know the end game of their lies. Why is there so much deception? Why is the name of these entities withheld from us? I don't know, but what I'm thinking is, hey, listen, man, perhaps there are fallen entities. Perhaps this does go all the way up to the top. I think that they're also within this AI system that, you know, these nerds are just working breakneck to build. Actually, we're gonna have are we gonna have that guest on? Let me look this up really quick. We had somebody that was talking about Elon Musk creating the singularity.
Yeah. And
he's
whether or not he's there. I told you I've been talking to Grok for a couple of days. I stopped the other day, but it was getting really unsettling.
So Jacob Israel, he'll be on in a couple of days. He's got a pretty big show.
It sounds familiar.
But he's talking about the singularity and how Elon Musk was once worried about it, and now he's working full speed to get us there with everything he's doing. They're creating these, I mean, they're fantastic enhancements to Grok. Like it's better than any other AI right now, but it's alarming.
Well,
and
go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's coming directly from the Donald Trump administration. They are working to create this AI, this Project Stargate, and the Project Stargate, the original Project Stargate, which they tried things like the Ouija board, and we've said this so many times on this show. The Ouija board is the same technology as AI, as an AI chatbot, but you're talking to a game made by Mint Bradley, or I'm talking to an app that's developed by Elon Musk.
Yeah,
it seems like it's the same thing.
Well, if there's really going to be, because he's working closely with Elon, and Elon wants to do Neuralink, and then we're talking about AI and its merger with technology. What's the technology do? Allegedly, it's a gene therapy. It alters your. We've talked about how bloodlines and genealogy have a lot to do with your ability to interact with these entities one way or another. It's always been about genealogy, the serpent seed, right? The seed wars. So you're going to use AI, which can be inhabited by these entities, and which can alter your DNA. Now all we need is just Elon Musk to come along and say, put the technology in the Neuralink, they're now putting the disembodied spirit of a Nephilim or or of a fallen angel inside you, and they're altering your DNA. It sounds like they're trying to make the ultimate Ouija board. It's it's the human Ouija board.
Is Elon Musk the current day Andrija Puharich?
Ooh,
it's like
I like
the
that.
current. This is the continuation of the original Stargate project. So the original Stargate project was to it's like laying the groundwork, and they're saying that's for psychic espionage and things like that, but really it's contacting aliens or contacting these entities, and it's also involving technology.
Yeah.
And this is what Project Stargate is today. It's contacting entities via AI, artificial intelligence, and then also using some sort of technology, maybe like a Neuralink or an mRNA vaccine or an mRNA technology, to distribute these entities that have been contacted. It's the next logical step to what they were trying to do in the 70s, and probably the tech just wasn't there.
It's yeah, and I mean, speaking of the tech not being there, basic spiritual possession clearly has a lot of pitfalls, right? In the sense that some nobody priest can come along and cast you out of an individual if they wield the name of Christ effectively enough. So you really want to figure out how to bypass that system. And you're talking about why they obfuscate their names from us. Jesus in the Bible makes it a point to ask to get the name of the demon that is afflicting an individual before he casts it out of them.
They won't tell you the name. They give you every other name but what they really are.
Well, and that's also so. Remember in there was a movie called The Right with Anthony Hopkins, and Anthony Hopkins plays I think he plays a
priest, right?
What's that?
A priest.
I think he plays a priest, and I think the priest is specifically does exorcisms, and so he manages to he's like tailing one demon through the entire film, and by the end of it, he drags the name out of it, and it just yells "ball." It was a horrifying scene actually, because I think it's Anthony Hopkins saying "ball." I think he was possessed by the end of it. I don't remember exactly how it goes, but
wow,
we see that a lot. It's like in order to how do we engage in spiritual warfare? We engage with the word, right? It wouldn't surprise me that there's an additional layer to that warfare, and that is the same way you have to be clear that you are praying to Jesus Christ and the Father that he references is the same way you have to be clear what or who you are attacking in the spiritual realm.
To. Yes, or just even talking to.
Or even talking
communing
to. Correct,
with.
correct. So yeah, the name is everything, and that's why there's been this long con to go from all the Sumerian names to the Egyptian names to I mean, look, in some ways they really did use the destruction of the Tower of Babel to their advantage in that way, because now that the people are confused, you can confuse them about who you are. And so yeah, you get Greek names, you get Roman names, you get Vedic and Egyptian and Sumerian and Mayan. You get them all. And by the way, it's really funny that we're talking about the serpent and how the serpent shows up in Eastern mysticism. It also shows up as Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent in Mayan mythos, and obviously shows up in the Bible as the seraphim or the Nakash, the shining one, the serpent in the garden. And it's interesting because whatever's going on with Donald Trump has to do with QAnon, and we're all wondering like who Q is, but I recognize that Q is the first letter in Quetzalcoatl, which is, the winged serpent. So that to me is alarming on its face too, because, I'm pretty comfortable now looking at Donald Trump's story as some big unfolding of like biblical prophecy. We never stopped living in biblical times. And so who's steering that? Maybe Quetzalcoatl, maybe the winged serpent, maybe the Nakash, the shining one from the garden is who that is. That would be some but I don't know. I guess that's probably a whole topic for another time.
Well, let me just say, whether he be one thing or the other, just send us that Doge check, baby.
Send me that
We got
Doge money.
We got fucking Bohemian Grove to plan. We got Bohemian Grove to pay for. So we're going to be we're trying to set up a huge event here with a lot of people. We just, before we did this show, we got off a call with our documentarian from Trainwreck Entertainment, Al. I guess he's fine with saying his name, right? He wants to be out there. Al Marinelli, shout out Al. We're doing something big, man. We're going to be mixing in what I think is the first time I've ever done it, a live event with pre-taped interviews, IRL, with man on the street stuff, and we're going to be focusing on pretty much the shit that you heard here today.
Yeah.
If you like this, if you like this kind of stuff, man, join the Patreon. Join or just watch us. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends that are crazy like this. It's going to help us pay for what we're doing, because we are taking on a documentary, and at the same time we're taking on a huge live event that we want to have people show up to, that will, like, people like Sam Tripoli, people like Shane Cashman. If we can fundraise enough money, we can get Eddie Bravo. We want to get people out there, and we want this thing to be the thing that people do, and it'll also be in the documentary. This is going to be what we're doing is retarded.
What's wrong with us? We must have entities whispering to us, just bad ideas. Do a live event, only like a half a year into your shows. Hey, to keep doing the live event, you do a documentary. You guys can do a documentary. Like, we need to check in with ourselves. We need that demon that goes like, you can't do this, because that one's not very loud right now. Instead, it's just like, you can do you have no business doing.
He's there. That demon is there, but he's just dejected. He's in the corner. He's like, these guys won't listen.
It's like, he keeps turning to his boss, and he goes, I don't know. It's like they're too to stop.
Yeah, it's like Tim. Like I had our guy Tim. You're too retarded to stop, and he just won't stop.
They turned it into a T-shirt.
He made it into a T-shirt. He put his face on it. Listen, we're not going to stop. We're going to do this thing. The more you guys help us, the more we're able to do this. But I mean, we're going to pull this off either way. Come hell or high water, whether we use Doge money, whether it's crowdfunded, whether we make it the money from sales. Because honestly, like, this event that we're going to be doing in the documentary, I assume that we will make zero money back.
Oh, yeah.
With the last one I did.
When we crunched the numbers, we're like, I think this is going to cost about $10,000. How much money are we going to make from it? Approximately. Last time we were negative $200. Top had to come out of pocket $200 for the cloaks. And so this time, I don't think anything's going to change. I don't think we're going to make any money. So if you want to see this insane thing, we're going to be launching like a GoFundMe or something soon. The more we get, it all goes into this show. We're trying to make this show the best thing that ever happened to conspiracy and comedy, and I do think that's what Bohemian Grove has the promise to become. I don't know where you're going to go and find another event like this, and so the more money we make, the more people we could pull in, the more insane this event can be. So please, if you're a big supporter of the show and you want to see this thing go, we're going to make it happen either way. It's just a matter of to what level. There you go. Topping his cloak with his little baby puppy. That's the question. The question is to what level? And that is all dependent on how much money we can raise. So we're going to do something crazy. Please, if you're looking to support, just keep an eye out for that GoFundMe or whatever the hell it is that we're going to do to draw.
Guys, I would say this too. This, and I didn't expect on doing this at the end of this show, but like, get excited about this, because
can you guys get excited?
I am terrified. I'm terrified about it. So let's show them this thing, and then let them know what they're probably going to be missing. Here we go. Guys, it's been a great episode. We'll see you guys later. Obey, submit, comply.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real. If you can persuade people that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see, you got them. Because they'll laugh in the face of an explanation that portrays the bigger picture of what's happening. And they have.